Welcome to For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where we discuss amazing books written by talented authors. For Book Lovers Only Live Radio is a proud member of the Village Connector Media Network. If you love books, we have a home for you. Now time for your host and chief book lover, Rob Brown.
Hello, book lovers and book fans. Welcome to For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover. I hope you all enjoyed the holiday weekend last weekend and also enjoyed watching our inaugural broadcast again. That is probably my favorite broadcast because it started everything. We are so happy and so proud of that. We're also happy that you have the opportunity to join us again today. This is our 10th live broadcast. And to welcome our special studio guest, author Steven Macalester, and we'll be chatting with Steven in just a few moments. Now, we've had some book lovers ask how they can join our Book Lovers Club. It's very easy. Simply go to www.forbookloversonly.com. That's www.forbookloversonly.com. And there are a few places on the website where you can sign up, submit your name and email address, and then click here to join, and you're instantly a member. It's just that simple. Now, there is no cost. It's absolutely free, and you'll receive newsletters via email from me from time to time, keeping you posted about new authors, book events, and special book buying opportunities that you can find out about before the general public. So it really behooves you to join. We will also have contests for free books and other prizes that are available only to our book lovers, our book club members. So please join today. We would love to invite you and have you a part of our book lovers family. Now, we've also had a few book lovers inquire about how our website is different from, let's say, barnesandnoble.com or an amazon.com where they can buy books. We answer questions like that through our frequently asked questions page on our website. Feel free to visit and learn more about our website and get your questions answered. And if for some reason you have a question about the website, about the radio show, about our TV show that don't appear on the FAQ page, feel free to email me directly at rob@forbookloversonly.com. And I'll be sure to respond as quickly as I can. That's rob@forbookloversonly.com. Now, I want to take a moment to give a special thank you to our authors from our last live broadcast who rounded out Sports Health and Fitness Month. Karen Goler, author of Lymphedema, Sentenced to Life in Bed But I Escaped, and Legs Plus Workout, and Shelley Malone, author of Inflamed. Those books are available at our website, www.forbookloversonly.com, and feel free to purchase a copy of each. Thank you so much, Karen and Shelley. We look forward to having you on our show again. Now, before we dive in today with our special in-studio guest author, Steven Macalester, I want to share a few pieces of book-related trivia with you. Today, our trivia is focused on English poet and playwright William Shakespeare, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, Bill. Our first piece of trivia is that not only was Shakespeare born on today's date, April 23rd, 1564, but he died on the exact same day 52 years later on April 23rd, 1616 in the United Kingdom. So it's very strange that he was born and died on the exact same day. Now, Shakespeare never attended any university. He was never academically trained to write. He just had a natural talent for prose, which obviously we all know about, read his plays in high school, and Shakespeare is a household name. The last play that he wrote was The Two Noble Kinsmen, which is believed to have been written in 1613 when Shakespeare was 49 years old. So it's a few pieces of trivia about William Shakespeare. Thank you for all of your wonderful plays, Bill, and happy birthday again. Before I dive in with today's in-studio guest, I want to take a quick moment for a broadcast ID. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover, and this is For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Please hit the share button at the bottom of your screen to share this broadcast with your family and friends and colleagues. We like to invite them to join our book lovers family. So please, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little share button. Just click share and share us out to those people who mean anything to you. Today's in-studio guest is a very talented author, and he's a photographer. who has written 2 books. He has appeared on our For Book Lovers Only internet television show to chat about his first book, Traces, An Autistic Pathway to Creative Expression. And he is here today to chat about Traces and his most recent release, On the Trail with Annie and Angel. Please welcome to the show, Steven Macalester. Steven, thank you so much for coming by.
No problem. Thanks for having me here again.
It's been a while. It's been a while since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, lots of stuff happened here and there.
I know you've been very busy. We were so delighted to have you on a television show to discuss Traces. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Traces, but I wanted to introduce your new book, On the Trail with Annie and Angel. But first, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of introduce yourself to our book lovers in your own words.
My name is Steven Macalester, and I'm someone with autism, or Asperger's syndrome is another word of putting it. Ever since I learned that I had autism at the age of 5, I wanted to learn more about how it affected the world around me and how people viewed me and how I interact with the world. And now I want to educate other people about autism as well, to kind of help build a bridge between neurotypicals, or normal people for another word, and those who have autism, kind of like a bridge of understanding. So the way I've done it is, the first project I've done is, as you can see, these books. The first one, Traces, An Autistic Pathway to Creative Expression, and the new one I released recently, On the Trail with Annie and Angel.
Those great. 2 books already out the gate. I think that's amazing. Let's start with Traces. Now, we've already discussed your book on our TV show, but I think it's a wonderful book, so I never get tired about talking about it. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write Traces in the first place.
Originally, Traces was more like an art project than anything else, like a college project. But when I met up with Ken Rashan from the Umbrella Syndicate, he told me about Perfect Publishing, and it gave me an opportunity to make it more than just a piece of art that just sits on a shelf and collects dust, but rather a professional project that could actually help someone. So I decided to make the book about autism, but pick a very specific topic. For Traces, I decided to go with daydreaming, because it's kind of like when people pace around or stare up into the sky and whatnot. It's what we consider daydreaming. But what a lot of people miss is that just because autistic people daydream doesn't necessarily mean that they're cut off from the rest of the world. Far from it. It could be their way of adapting to a current situation or brainstorming ideas. You ever watch that Nickelodeon series, Doug?
No, I can't say that I have.
Oh, what's the matter with you?
I know.
But yeah, for those who have seen Doug, it's kind of like when he daydreams about a certain situation, kind of over dramatizes it or fantasizes it or whatnot, somewhere along those lines. So it's kind of like that.
I see. So, I mean, would you say that you having Asperger's syndrome, sometimes you find yourself daydreaming as well, or?
A lot, actually. It's like whether it comes to just my spare time or working at work or various projects or whatnot, I find that if I'm confused or thinking about something that's coming up next, I kind of daydream just a little bit to come up with some ideas and whatnot.
I see. And Traces is about daydreaming. It's a very short book. It's a great book. I'm actually going to read a couple of pages. I don't want to give out the whole book, because if people want to learn the whole book, they need to purchase it.
No spoilers here.
When I think about the world, I imagine. When I view the world, I dream.
Okay, you can stop.
One more. Dreams of wonder, dreams of abstraction. Like I say, it's a very simple book, but it really causes the reader to kind of think about their own daydreaming and to just really appreciate, the mind of someone with autism or someone with Asperger's. And it really gives them kind of a view as to, what someone else can think or what someone else is daydreaming about.
Right.
Absolutely. I think it's a great book. So now, when did you write that book?
Let's see. It started as an art project around a few years ago. It started at UMBC, but then it was actually published officially a couple years ago.
Okay.
It was probably a few months before it actually appeared on For Book Lovers Only for the first time. So.
Right. And what type of feedback have you gotten, not just from people with autism, people with Asperger's, but from people who don't have it? Have they read the book and said, I have a greater understanding of people with autism now? Or
Funny you should mention that. I actually heard a couple stories about parents saying they better understand their kids because of this, but there was one particular story that stood out when a fellow friend of mine, Amanda Carter, person in charge of CareFab, actually used this book for kind of a therapy thing, if you will, for a young autistic girl. And what happened was, after the girl read the book, from what I understand, she immediately got up, went over to where the drawing materials are, and started creating artwork. And it was kind of interesting to me because I was wondering if it was either a coincidence or if there was something in the book that kind of inspired her to make works of art of her own, to make that a way of communicating between her and other people. Because, like, one of the challenges autistic people face is communication, like getting the message out there and making sure that the message is clear and understandable.
Right.
But with art, it's kind of like the universal language. Like, no matter where you're from or what ethnicity you have, if I said the right word correctly, or the color of your skin, or what beliefs, or any of that, it doesn't matter. Like, you can still look at art and kind of appreciate it for what it's worth.
That's pretty profound, that you had that effect on that young lady. What about people who don't have Asperger's, people who don't have autism? Are they like, wow, like I have a greater understanding of it now, or at least I understand a little bit better than what I did before I read the book?
Well, basically what it did was it kind of opened the door for them to show them that there's more to autism than just the label or the mental disability or whatnot, that there's more to it than that.
I see. I think Traces is a great book. I believe it's been selling quite a few copies. Very successful.
Over
book.
100. No need to brag.
That's very good. That's very good for first-time book. Many authors don't sell 100 copies of their book for the first time.
Yeah, but it's me we're talking about.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding.
So obviously you had a lot of positive feedback from Traces, and then you decided to write On the Trail with Annie and Angel, and I want to focus on that today. Tell us a little bit about this book. Very, very amazing, profound book. Tell us a little bit more about that.
For visual-wise, I wanted to make it more like kind of like a memory book, if you will. Kind of like when you're going on some trip with your family and you want to take a bunch of pictures or make a bunch of paintings to kind of solidify or kind of memorize what happened during that day.
Right.
But for the story, On the Trail with Annie and Angel, it's about a mother and a daughter going to this new place. And so it's kind of a bonding experience, if you will. But what happens in the story is that you see that two people are going on the same trail, but yet for some reason they can't really see eye to eye. They don't see what the other person sees. So it kind of plays around with that and challenges the readers on how different perspectives work and what the outcome could be between the two people. Because, like, we've seen it many times where we all take the same classes at school or go to the same church and same lectures and whatnot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we all come to the same conclusion. We may read certain other parts here and there that the other person might not have seen earlier and come to a different conclusion. So wanted to play around with that a bit.
Okay, and when was this book released?
That was actually released just a few years ago, December of last year.
Okay, and I imagine you've had a lot of great feedback from that book as well, especially from the fans of Traces.
Actually, yeah. This one was just released recently, so it's not as many as Traces yet.
Right.
But from what I've heard, I've had, like, from... sorry, let me get my words right. I've actually had some feedback on some parents who would actually read this story to their kids. It's kind of like a bedtime story, if you will. And from what I've heard, that not only is it like a really good story from what I've heard from them, but it helps parents better understand their kids, whether they have autism or not. It kind of helps them understand the fact that just because you guys do the same thing or go the same places doesn't necessarily mean you'll experience things the exact same way.
Right. So let me ask you this. As far as being someone with Asperger's syndrome, I think we all can look at a certain situation, and we can all have different views and different viewpoints about how we view that situation. Is there a particular challenge with being someone with Asperger's and having that unique view and being, let's say, I wouldn't say at odds, but just having a different point of view with someone that doesn't have autism or Asperger's? Is there a special challenge there?
Yes, actually, especially if you're trying to get them to understand something. Like sometimes you may not word it right. Sometimes you may say something that kind of ticks them off, but you don't know why it ticks them off. Or sometimes you can't think of anything at all. It's like you have a frog in your throat, as a saying goes, and whatnot. Like, I've had several experiences in the past where I try to get a message across or try to tell them something, but they end up just not understanding because I didn't really word it right. So it's a lot of trial and error, really.
Lots of trial and error, I see. So, I mean, how did you, now with regards to just not having the same viewpoint as someone else and seeing the same situation but from a different aspect, what would make you write a book about that? I mean, I think we all have that experience, but you actually wrote a book about it. Was there a particular incident that happened? You're like, I got to write a book about this.
Not really a particular incident. I just noticed several times from both my experience and the experiences of other families where like the parents have a hard time bonding with their kids because they don't see the way that their kids do. They don't see the exact same thing. So sometimes it kind of like makes a gap between the two.
Right.
And that's kind of a big issue, whether your kid is autistic or not. So it's important to accept that you see things one way, the kids see things another way, but that doesn't make any perspective any more or less important than the other. Like, if we were all to see the exact same thing, then we wouldn't necessarily be unique. Like, you wouldn't be Rob Brown, I wouldn't be Steven Macalester. We would just be one person who saw everything the exact same way. It's the different perspectives that give us our unique view in life, whether you have autism or not. It's how we perceive the world and what solutions we come up with on our own. But once you understand and accept that fact, it becomes easier to kind of relate and bond with other people. Just accepting that I don't see things the way you do, but that doesn't make your perspective any less important than mine.
Right, and I think that the thing that's lost on many people is that having different perspectives and different viewpoints on one subject, that's an advantage. That's not a disadvantage. That's something to be cherished, not something to be looked down upon. I think that the fact that we all have different viewpoints about a certain topic or a certain person or a certain situation, we can really draw strength from that. And I think that's lost, especially in the current political climate that we find ourselves in.
Oh, don't get me started on politics and whatnot.
Right.
Pardon my French, but an old pastor of mine once said, mixing politics with anything is like mixing ice cream with, for lack of a better word, poop. The poop is fine, but the ice cream is ruined.
I mean, I think your pastor is very wise to have said that. I think that I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. But it just seems to me that people would really start to think and realize and say, hey, you know what? I have a different viewpoint or different perspective from this other person, but that's a good thing because they're showing me different things about this situation or this person or whatever it is that I never thought of myself, and they're kind of expanding my own way of thinking or my own horizons.
Right, but before anyone can even begin to expand your horizon or expand your understanding, you have to first accept that there are different perspectives, that not everyone's going to see things the way that you do, because if you don't accept that fact, how are you going to learn anything?
Right, exactly. Now, just out of curiosity, and I don't know if this is a silly question or not, but you have different perspectives and different viewpoints about a certain situation, and you've told us that you have Asperger's. Now, have you from time to time viewed a certain aspect or a certain situation and had a unique viewpoint, and someone else with Asperger's kind of had the same viewpoint as you?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, just because someone else is autistic like me doesn't mean they're going to spot the exact same thing. Maybe they notice something I don't. Maybe it's vice versa. So I can't really think of a particular time where me and another autistic saw the exact same thing.
Right. So what other topics with regards to, having Asperger's that you're probably going to be writing books about? Because I find this fascinating.
I'm actually coming up with a few ideas, one of which is like with facial expressions, particularly comparing facial expressions to real life and those like you've seen in anime or cartoons. Like in anime, you can easily see what expression the character is having, the way that it's like designed or created. But in real life, it's kind of hard to read facial expressions. It's hard to read a person. That's one of the challenges that autistic people face, is like reading the facial stuff and reading the social cues and body language. So I was thinking about making like a comparison and kind of talk about why is it so difficult and like what could be done about it and whatnot. I've also had a few ideas about making some topics about autistic people in the adult world, because like when people talk about autism, they often think about the little kids who have autism just playing around and trying to get used to new kids and whatnot. But you don't often hear about the stories of adults with autism in the autistic world. So I kind of want to try to branch further into that a bit. I just got to figure out how to do it, though.
And to be diagnosed with autism, is this something, would you say there are a lot of adults that have autism that just have never been diagnosed with it, and they've maybe encountered some challenges in their personal professional lives, and it's
funny you should mention that, because I actually met a couple people a while back who didn't learn that they had autism until after high school, and at first it was kind of depressing for them knowing that they had like a mental disability this whole time and they never knew anything about it. But once they learned more about the autism and accepting that it is a part of them, it started kind of answering a lot of questions that they had in the past. Kind of like a little revelation, if you will.
I see. It had to be an eye-opening revelation then.
I mean, it definitely helped them explain a lot of things that they did in the past or how people interacted with them in the past.
So are you getting more interest from people who read traces and read on the trail and say, you know what, Steven, you're on to something. We're viewing you as kind of like an authority in the field of autism. We're definitely interested in having you write more books.
I wouldn't necessarily say like an authority figure. To be honest, I've actually been working on more than one project recently in autism. Like one of my bigger goals I need to get to is like connecting more with the autistic community, so that way I get more attention towards the project, but also kind of help build more bridges between autistics and neurotypicals. Like the book projects are a good start.
Right.
Like it's a nice thing to get out there for people to read and whatnot, but for me, that's not the only avenue that I have. Like I feel like in this day and age, you can't afford to be a one-trick pony. You got to try other stuff. So last year, I actually started up a YouTube channel with my little brother Thomas. He also has autism, Asperger's syndrome. And the YouTube channel is called Toastemac, spelled Tostemac. Force of habit, I got to keep spelling that. But on Toastemac, me and Thomas kind of make comedy videos or like either video games or skits. Yeah, go figure. Autistic people doing comedy. But one of the other things that kind of ties that to autism is that on Saturdays I do autism vlogs, which either talk about my personal experience with autism or a certain recent event that's been going on recently, in a way to kind of give a little bit more voice to certain subjects that neurotypicals or autistic people may be concerned about, like why do autistic people stim? Why do they have picky eating habits? What are the differences between autism awareness and autism acceptance? I've done like a variety of topics, and they've been pretty well received.
Excellent. And when did you launch your YouTube channel?
I actually launched it last year, and last I checked, it currently has 268 subscribers to the YouTube channel, which is actually quite amazing considering that it's only like 1 year old right now. So that means we're either doing something right or my little brother is rigging this somehow.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. Those numbers, I'm sure they're going to be increasing exponentially. Now, you mentioned the term neurotypicals. Can you define that for us?
Neurotypical is just another way of saying normal people, but with less words.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. This is a very educational broadcast for us because I think that we've all heard of the terms autism and Asperger's, but a lot of times people really don't know what they mean, and they don't really understand, how a person with Asperger's or autism, how they view the world. And I think your books do a tremendous job of just kind of giving us a little glimpse into this world and having us to appreciate people with autism and Asperger's much more.
Right. So it's like one avenue that I have for kind of illustrating the autism experience rather than just writing a whole novel with no pages whatsoever. That would just bore people like
right.
But as I mentioned before, like with the YouTube channel Toastamac, it also gives me another avenue to not only educate people about autism through vlogs, but also kind of entertain them in the way through like some audio effects or visual effects or whatnot, because anyone can make videos on YouTube these days. You just set a recording camera in front of you, say a bunch of things, upload it, and that's it. But it's what you do with the work that makes you stand out a bit more. So I had to remember to make the autism vlogs not only informative, but also entertaining to watch, because at the end of the day, if you make it fun or entertaining, they'll remember it. And when they remember something, they tend to cherish it a bit more rather than just like going through like a special on history or National Geographic, like, oh my God, what is it going to be over?
Put you to sleep.
And you probably forget it the next day. But if you make it fun as well as educational, they'll tend to remember it a bit more.
Great idea. Great concept, and I love the way you're executing it with your vlog. And I think that you've got a tremendous platform for just educating us with your books, and we are so excited about the things that you have done and the things that you're going to continue to do. And for our book lovers who are watching and listening, where can they check more information about you out? Do you have a website or?
Yes, actually. I remodeled the website that I had a while back, and I've actually have an online store of it now where they can actually buy my books. Let's see if I remember this correctly. It's socalsteve.wixsite.com/Steven-Macalester. I know it's a lot, but I think that's correct. So from there, you can actually take a look at a little bio that I have, along with some pictures that I've taken in the past, a couple video stuff, and also find the online shop where you can actually buy some of my books that you've seen and heard about on the show.
Great.
And for those who have Facebook, they can find my like pages, Steven Macalester Autism Books, and the other Facebook page, Toastamac. They have direct links to the websites from there as well. So
great, and of course your vlog as well, so they can check that out too.
Yeah, the autism vlogs are on the YouTube channel Toastamac. They're on every Saturday evening, so yeah, feel free to check them out.
Great. Steven, thank you so much for stopping by. We are excited about everything that you're doing. Definitely going to follow up. And the next time you have one of your future books come out, please stop by the show and check us out again.
Oh, yeah, it's still a work in progress.
Great. This has been live for Book Lovers Only Live Radio. We are here with Steven Macalester. Go get a copy of his book. He has 2 books out, Traces, An Autistic Pathway to Creative Expression, and On the Trail with Annie and Angel. 2 great books. Check out his vlog and check out his Facebook page. He is doing some great work, and we are excited about his success. We're almost out of time. Thanks for tuning in, but be sure to stop by next week when we'll have authors Jill Sammet and Greg Magoon on a call to learn about their phenomenal books. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover. This is for Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Take care, and we'll see you next week.